Well, hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the new features from our latest point release, Liberty version 5, build 8.31. This release is a nice mix of public-facing and staff enhancements, along with a major release of our mobile app, Liberty Link. So let's get started with search, also known as OPAC. Probably the first thing that you already see is that we have redesigned the search box. So just a word, there are actually two basic designs for the search area. We introduced a new one several releases ago. So parameter 4230 allows you to go with the alternate homepage view, which is this large search box with the shaded area behind. So if you are using this, you will see this new design. If you are using the older, small, original interface, you will see no difference. So the search types are now nicely tiled above. So if you go into something like basic search, those options that used to be radio buttons underneath are now just in this drop down. If you go on to advanced search, it's a direct drop from the search bar, as would be federated search if you own that. And to choose your browse search, again, we're dropping down from the left-hand side so that you can choose the kind of browse searching that you want to do. Also, there were icons on the right side of the screen that allowed you to search another Liberty or send the search to another website, or if you own a Lumen, to search a Lumen directly. These are now nice, neat drop down, and you can always go back to the previous search by using that option. So let's just do a search. Notice that the scroll bar on the right side of the suggestions is gone, and that as you move through the suggestions, it's very clear which one is highlighted. So in your results set, whether it's the list or the tile, the search bar is now across the entire top. And again, same options, drop down for variations, drop down for other options here, and drop down to see the different kinds of searching that your Liberty has. So that's the basics that we've done with search. Let's go back to the welcome page. Now, historically, the way in which to have different welcome pages was for different branches, and as your borrowers logged in, they might see different pages because of their branch. We've had a lot of requests to make it for groups of people rather than only for branches, and we've now done that. We've given you some very nice tools. So the first piece of that set is the Manage Filters. So I'm just going to add a new filter to show you how this works. I'm going to decide that a specific information box should only be shown to students. And so I'll establish a new filter called Students. If I wanted, I could put in specific alias or borrower name. In my system, it turns out that I can identify students by their BLC. Notice that the cursor's to the right, and you can automatically put in more of whatever category you choose. Could be a department, it could be a borrower type. I'll come back and talk about borrower lists in a bit, but let's just start here. So I'm just going to save this new filter, and you can see that we have a few other filters already here. Then I'm going to go into an information box, Time Management, and I'm going to edit that. Or it could be creating a new box, but we've given you a new field called Show To Filters. And here I'll just put in my students and choose it. If you've forgotten what you called your filters, don't worry. That's what this search is about. It will take you over to the filter area, and it will even allow you to ad hoc add a new filter because you know that you need it at this point. But I've now assigned a filter to an existing information box, and I'll just save that up. And as you can see, or rather not see, time management has disappeared from my homepage. And the reason is I'm logged in as myself and I am not a student. So for you to manage this and design good home pages for different groups of people, you need an additional few tools. So one option would be just view by branch, and forget filters. And if you do that, you can see that time management appears again, and you can even see that it has a filter on it. That's what that little emblem represents. Notice that at the top of the screen, it says very clearly, you are looking at the branch Lawson's, and you can finish that at any time and go back to your own, personal homepage. And additionally, we've given you this new button called View Homepage As. Now, if it's a specific branch, that's what you've sort of always had, and that's what we looked at a moment ago. But you can also see what your OPAC unlogged users will see, or you can search for a specific borrower. So I'm just going to search for Cynthia because I happen to know she's a student. And if I view, I will be told very clearly you're seeing the screen as Cynthia Carter would, and you notice the time management is back. So that's the way in which you'll be able to design home pages for different groups of people. And I said I would cover borrower lists, which is yet an even more sophisticated way. So we're going to go over to the staff side. And I'm just going to go into borrowers. And I could do a search because there's something within the record other than what we've already discussed. Or it might just be that I have arbitrary people that I want to group together. This is all good. I'll just do a view of those three, and I will use an existing bit of functionality called borrower list. We introduced this to help with serial distribution and also with bulk emailing, but now we're going to add something else. So I'm going to manage borrower lists. It will come up and ask me for a name. If this feels familiar, it's almost identical to making lists of resources for OPAC. So I'll just call it special. That's really all I want to call it. And I now have a borrower list which is called special. Now, back to my filters again. I can now add a new filter, and the name of that filter will just say is special people. And I will define the filter with one of my borrower lists, the one I just made called special. And you can see again that I could add an additional. Now, when I save this, I now have another borrower list. If I apply it, or another filter rather, and if I apply that to any of these information boxes, these are the only 3 people who will be able to see that box. I'll also point out, by the way, that if you want to see, what boxes have that filter, that's what this button will do. So we try and give you as much information as we can wherever you are. Few other things about these wonderful new filters on information boxes. You may use positioning here, but because it does not apply filters, I'll just point this out. We know that I'm not seeing time management at the moment, and yet it's here. So this will help you rearrange things, but you may still need to take a quick look using the new tool of View Homepage As. And we've also made having an information box for a list, a resource list, easier. We've always been able to do that, but the search was rather complex. So now if you set it for a system search and set it for browse, you can actually just search for your own lists, and you can apply these to an information box without doing more than that. So you can just look for the list that you've already established here under your lists. And the last thing that I'll just mention is that you may have noticed these icons here. Let's just edit this. So the first field in the information box definition now says whether this is a website that is Liberty, or Liberty and the mobile app, or only mobile app, or whether you've disabled it. because you're working on it and you don't want everyone else to see it for a bit yet. So all of those are now controlled with this new display at the very top of the information box. Now let's talk about some other changes to OPAC. The setup wizard on the color page, I'm not going to take the time to show you this, has one new area of the screen which has color, and that is that when you select, let's look at the list, when you select things, because I'm in a custom theme, you see no difference, although I could define a color. But if you are in the default theme, which is kind of bright blue and grays and blacks, as you select, you will see that the selected lines become a blue. So if you want to add in that color element of highlighting the selected lines, just go into the setup wizard and there is a new option on the color page. Next, if you hover over something, this is the hover view, you should be familiar with this. Historically, if you move away from it, it disappears, but we've given you a new tool, which is if you click, it pins. It will free as soon as you hover over something else or you change screens. Let's do another search. And this title has an embedded PDF. Now this is an existing feature, and if you've not used it and are interested, it's well documented. What we've added is the ability to get rid of the bibliographic display and use more of the screen for the PDF itself. So we've added the expand and compress button to the PDF. Now what's new here is this. Click for online access. Per your request, we have given you the option to include the URL, not related URLs, but the specific field URL into your results display rather than having to hover or look at the detail. It is not enabled by default. You need to use Pages to add it into this list display. And there's a good tips and tricks video on the portal that talks about all kinds of things with the OPAC results list. And this is just a new field which is called web address that you can add in. If when you added that URL, you added what's called a URL mask or the text that displays, we will show that. If you have not, we'll use this phrase, click here for online access. And if you don't like that phrase as the default, go into translations and you can change it. We've done some cool things with lists, which I've touched on when we were looking at the information boxes. So our examples here are hierarchical lists. They have sub categories of lists. So I've just gone into a specific list and see all of the results there. And historically, if I wanted to explore something else from lists, I would have had to go back to the menu. So we've added the return to lists, and that allows you to come back to this page. If you want to send people to your list, which you've carefully designed via email or from another web page, now we're giving you the link that represents that list. So if we come over here to Cataloging Authority Control and into Lists, look at our lists. Let's go into Aviation. This button is new, Copy URL. So grab the URL that we create for you and put it in your email or on another web page. And when the user clicks, they will be taken to that aviation list. And if it's a top-level list that has children, that has sub-lists, all of those will display for you. Next stop, back in OPAC again. Let's do another search. Now, if we look at this record, you will see access credentials and a password. That's just an example. You might think that this is a custom field that I added in, but it's not. It's a brand new field, and it has a characteristic we've never given you before, which is that this field is only seen by some people. You actually give privileges to probably staff and admins to see it, and not to the anonymous user, the unlogged OPAC user, or maybe OPAC only users. So seeing this field is dependent on the privileges. Now, will it be in all cataloging? No, we are defaulting it. Let's have a quick look at bib types. So this is a demo system, so we probably have more than you do. But audiobook, ebook, and I'll not go on to the page that has website. Those are the 3 standard Liberty bib types to which this field has been added. Doesn't mean that you can't add it to other bib types, those you've made or other standards. Just go into the bib type, and at the bottom you'll see the links to the pages. There are cataloging pages and there are OPAC pages, and all you have to do is edit the appropriate page and get access credentials, that's the field, and put it into the cataloging form, I would think, and also display an OPAC. If it doesn't show an OPAC privileges aside, you won't be seeing it. All right. So now let's go back to OPAC again, and I'll talk about just a few other things. Some of you are using software that does point to records in Liberty, discovery layers and some linking software. When your user gets to Liberty, they typically see this, which is a list of 1. It would be nicer if they had an option to see the detail. And so we've developed a syntax you can give to your other software partner to be able to do that. Just look at the release notes or contact support. And somewhat related to this is that some of you are exporting MARC to send to another software that will want to reference back to Liberty under some circumstances. So one of the interesting things you can do is that in the MARC export definitions in parameters, we've given you a new parameter, 6312, where you can agree to put a new URL into that MARC record generated specifically to point to your Liberty record within Liberty. So if that's of use, we've given you that additional capability. And the final thing I want to show you just here in OPAC is, let's do one more search. Now, you can see either by text or by icon that this is available in another branch. My branch is known as Lawson's, and if we look at this, we see that the Lawson's copy is out. I'm a staff member, that's why you can see to whom. But there is a Sydney copy. So for some libraries, this is very appropriate, and for some libraries, if you cannot get the material where the user is, it's of no use. So there's a new parameter that you can set, 4525, which allows you to say, I prefer local branch availability. And in that case, it defaults to work as it always has, but you can change it. It will then show unavailable, even though there is an available copy. If it's not at the user's branch, it is not marked available. Right, let's go over to the staff side and look at a few options there. Let's start out with some parameters in the borrower area. So we'll go here to circulation and then down to borrowers. These are the newest parameters here at the bottom. The first for circulating libraries you've probably had the experience of deleting a borrower. We save the loan history for statistical analysis, and then they come back. So by default, it will not match to the old loan history, but you can change that no to a yes. And then if you put in an identical alias, it will find the old loan history and match it all up again. The next option has to do with expired privileges, which historically have only affected circulation desks, but now you can bar login. This is not barred by default, but you can change it to not allow. And then when your user attempts to log in, you get a message that says basically privileges have expired, contact the library staff, and translations would let you change that message. And finally, this controls a new search field in borrowers and how it will be set. So let's go have a quick look at borrowers here. And this field is now on the screen, which says, when I'm searching, all other things being equal, should I include expired borrowers or not? And it will be ticked or not based on that new parameter. Some other improvements we've made to existing functionality include simplifying global change. So what I'm going to do is just find a few borrowers who belong to a department, these three, and I'm going to do global change. This warning will come up as it always has, but the next screen has been simplified. We've removed the current value, and what I'm going to do is change the department and change it to emergency, and then continue. And this message we try to make as clear as possible. Global change on 3 client records. It will modify department, and the new value will be this. So we didn't feel that we could make it any clearer. We are hoping to help our customers not change data in ways that they don't want to. And so these are the ways in which we hope we've improved global change. All right. Let's go on to some reports. Here we are in search, also known as OPAC statistics. And for those of you who are in this area a lot, the new thing is Excel. Most of the reports that were not in Excel throughout Liberty, it's a quite long list, are now in Excel. The only exceptions are ones such as some of the searches in this area that are designed to be a calendar. It makes no sense to do those in Excel, but most of those that could be were changed, or rather added. The old options are still there. Our next staff change is in catalog. Let's go and look at a resources search. This field for URL searching, it will not be on your screen when you come up on 831, but you can use pages to add the field in. Just a few words about what it searches and how it searches. Last major release, we added in the ability to do explicit searches for URL equals or URL masks equals. So it will search URLs, it will search related URLs, and it will search the masks or text displays of both of those. But if you are searching URLs, you just have to include the entire domain. This will not work. If you add in the rest of the domain, this will work. So you don't need the preface, and you could have URLs with many, many different endings. But if you're going to search on the URL itself, you have to include the full domain, and then it will work nicely. But you won't see it by default. Our next stop is in acquisitions. So for those of you who do orders and actually include the person for whom you are ordering it, we have given you the ability now to send them an email when you receive it. You can do that with a new parameter, 5017, and the email that comes out is defined with other miscellaneous emails in the system reports other reports. But it may be the case that in some circumstances you don't want that email sent. So even if you turn it on, when you receive, you'll get a little pop-up that basically says, I've turned mine on. Do you want to notify? And it will be set to yes, but you can change it to no in the specific circumstance. So that will give you possibly a little more comfort if you want to mostly email, but not always. On to serials, check-in. Again, historically, when you search for a serial here to check it in, you were brought the majority of serial cataloging records, and we are now restricting this so that you will only see serials that have a component and are current. So you will not see any of the others. It will only be your active serials. Even if you had a subscription but it's no longer current, you won't see that. So those are the things that we've done in the staff area. Now, the last topic that I want to share with you is the mobile app. And the easiest way for me to do that is just to show you a few slides. The new version is 1.0.2, and as I joke, it's not just for OPAC users anymore. You do have the ability to scan stock take, or it's called inventory in North America, from your mobile device. I'll show you a few screens that makes it a bit clearer. You also have the ability to say which of the options that are available for the Liberty Link homepage, which you want to include and order, and also if you want to modify the text, you can use translations, and those are available there. When your user is searching on the mobile app and doing clickouts or opening attachments, those will all be included in those search stats we were just looking at a moment ago. And if attachments are audio or video, they will now be able to be downloaded. And finally, for those of you who use Overdrive, there are many support for many additional media types. Again, look at the release notes. That's the simplest way to see if a type that you're interested in has new support. So here are a few screens. Clearly, you are logged into your mobile app in Liberty Link, but as a staff member, which is why you're seeing stock take. Step one to do this is actually to be in Liberty to define the stock take or inventory. You have to define the basic structure and then also sections. If you're used to doing stock takes, this is all familiar, but you can use the mobile app to decide which of the stock takes you've designed is the one that you want to be gathering data for now. And then comes the largest decision, whether you're going to scan items or do the bulk scan. Scan items get you a lot of information, but also requires that you be very interactive. Bulk scan is just what it sounds like. It allows you to just scan through. So let's have a look at the scan items first. So you scan an item, and Liberty will tell you about it, or rather Liberty Link will. And then you have to explicitly say that you are ready to scan another item. So each is done individually, as you can see here, and you can get information about errors and other details, the reporting end of things, when, again, you're doing it in the item mode. If instead you do the bulk scan, then you've turned your mobile device into just a scanner. It will feed everything up to Liberty, and then you will get the reporting directly out of Liberty as though you had done scans in Liberty or you had uploaded a file of barcodes. So, a bit more details about this. The Liberty release notes will have an overview of the new Liberty Link features, but if you want the full release notes because you're using Liberty Link or thinking about it, come to the support portal and a longer document will be there. Speaking of which, Liberty Link is free. If you have never used it and you would like to implement it, you do need to contact support because there's a slight change that has to be done to Liberty in order to support the mobile app. And we hope that you and your users will get benefit and value from these new Liberty and Liberty Link features. Thank you for your time today.